Okay, guys, it's Thanksgiving. We're almost Thanksgiving. So, my preparation for cooking turkey and gravy takes a few days, usually about 3. So, we're kind of going to go through the steps that I do and how I prepare my turkey, which is a bit unconventional compared to what other people do. So, I'm going to use the turkey, cut it off the bone, use the bone and the carcass for the gravy. So, couple things we're going to start with the ingredients. Now, basically I kind of grab whatever's in my spice rack in the cabinet. So, the essentials obviously is pepper. As my former chef Andy Williams used to say, kosher salt. Kosher salt is what salt should taste like. And just a bunch of spices. So we'll go through the spices later as we're going to add them, because we're going to use a spice. And the butter, we're going to melt the butter down with the spices and use that as a crust for the turkey, and as well we're going to inject the turkey with the butter to give it flavor. So first thing we're going to do is, what you want to do is obviously start with a sharp knife. Make sure your knives are always sharp when you're cutting. Anytime you're using a cutting board on a slick surface, you want to make sure that you put a wet towel down, so when you're cutting, nothing's going to be sliding. Red wine is important for the stock. Tomato paste we're going to use for the vegetables. And so we're going to start with the turkey. I'm going to start cutting the turkey off the bone. Again, when I cook my turkey, the white meat cooks slower than the dark meat. So I pull my turkey out as it's ready. I pull the pieces out as it's ready. So here we go. I'm going to get the turkey going. All the insides are the giblets and the liver, all that stuff. It's still a little frozen. Get all that stuff out. Get the ice out. Now all this stuff is going to go in the stock. The neck, bag's in there somewhere. Oh, I pulled it out of the buck. There it is. Actually, let's cut this off. All the liver, giblets, all that stuff is flavor. So this is kind of the tricky part, cutting it off the bone. So as you start at the legs. If you pull the turkey, you kind of see the separation of the leg and the breast. So we're just going to follow that natural separation. That's why it's important to have a sharp knife. When it gets to the joint, you can kind of break it. As you break it, you can see the joint coming right off. And then what we're going to do is kind of cut around that. That's done. My son loves the leg, so I usually separate this as well. If you look close, you can kind of see the line a little bit of the separation. I'm going to cut right on that line. Two separate pieces. Same thing on the other side. Natural separation. And for those of you that might not know, my former life, I was a chef. I went to culinary school. Used to work for Wolfgang Puck. In my early years, I was invited to the White House to do their desserts. It's kind of a big deal. It's in the paper and everything. But that was a lifetime ago. So you can see the separation here. Just kind of cut. You can even use a meat cleaver if you want. I just use a good knife. Natural separation of the line. You can see in the bone separate. That's that part. Wings, same thing. You know, as you lift this stuff up, you can kind of see the separation of it. You can see where the joint meets the body. You kind of cut around there. Big shout out to my director, Adriano Palmino. Thank you, Adri. And my director's reminding me that I'm supposed to preheat the oven, which I forgot. So I'm going to preheat the oven, 350. Let that get going for the stock that we're going to make. So the stock is really the secret to the gravy. Stock takes kind of a couple days, so I'll cook it overnight. All right, all the pieces are off. Now we're going to cut the breast off the bone. Like I said, we're going to use the bones for the stock. You're going to want to follow the middle. See over here is the middle of the line. You want to kind of want to follow that line. You want to get as much of the breast meat as possible and follow the natural separation of the breastbone and the breast meat. You can see it here, how that separates. Kind of pull apart as you're going. Nice easy cuts. The bone's right here. I got my knife leaning against it as I'm just slicing it and pulling at the same time. I don't lose any of the breast meat. Try to do this in reverse. You can kind of see. It's just I'm pulling and separating, trying to save as much of the meat as possible. That's it. We'll get to those pieces later. We're going to do the same thing on this side. Kind of pull away as we're slicing. I don't know if you guys ever noticed, you ever have, goodness, and I know my family's going to watch this, but growing up, they would cook the turkey. Damn, it was so dry. But Thanksgiving's half about, it's half about the food, the other half is really a family. I don't even care if we have Popeyes for Thanksgiving sometimes. It's just about getting together, playing some football. I don't watch too much football, but playing football, and that's what we did growing up. My cousins would come over, all dressed up in their nice clothes. It last about 5 minutes. Get into our sweats and be out playing football the rest of the day until dinner was ready. That's it. That's the turkey. That's done. Now this is where all the flavor's at. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to throw this whole carcass in a roasting pan. And then we're going to start working on the vegetables. So when you're making a stock, chicken stock or beef stock or lamb stock, whatever it is, what you're going to want to do is you're going to make a mirepoix. Mirepoix is 50% onions, 25% celery, and 25% carrots. So we're going to work on putting that together, and we're going to roast it. All right, now we're going to cut the vegetables. Onions first. Like I said, 50% onions, 25% celery, 25% carrots. All right, there's a trick cutting an onion when you're cutting onions because your eyes start to water. At least mine do. You put a piece of bread and you hold it in your mouth. You can chew it a little bit. Don't swallow it. The absorption of the bread in your mouth keeps your eyes from tearing. All right, now we're cutting carrots. Now you don't have to cut them any specific size. Even the ends are not a big deal. You throw them in there too. You know, kind of want it somewhat easy, even. And properly hold a knife. Here, hold a knife like this. Not like this. That's how you properly hold a knife. All right, that's about 25% carrots. Measure with the eye test. Celery. There's an older one. Again, it doesn't matter what you're doing with the celery as far as size. Celery, you don't really want the butt end. Throw a little bit more, a couple more stalks. Leafy part's fine. All right, so all the vegetables are in there. The gizzards, the neck, the carcass. Now what we're going to do with this is kind of what you're looking for, something like this. All right, all that's flavor. Tomato paste. Kind of doesn't matter what brand. Some tomato paste. Let's throw that in there. I precisely measured. No, just kidding. I don't really measure anything unless I'm baking. You guys ever play with mud? That's kind of what we're going to be doing here. And we're going to take this and we're going to mix all of this with the tomato paste. The carcass, the gizzards, the neck, inside. Mix all the vegetables. Get the vegetables mixed. Just stuff it inside. Make sure everything's coated with the tomato paste. I think I might need a little bit more tomato paste. That's where my director needs to come in and throw a little more tomato paste in there for me, please. With a smile. Yep. One more. All right, that's good. I'm gonna rub the turkey with the tomato paste. We're gonna let this roast in the oven about an hour. We want it to be brown. If it's a little burnt, that's fine. Obviously, we don't want burnt. Some of the onions might, burn a little bit before the carrots are cooking, but that's fine. All right, this is ready. This This is going to go in the oven. So I'm going to pop this in the oven. (350 degrees). Just so we don't forget it, I'm going to set a timer for about an hour. Alexa, set timer for 1 hour. All right, so the next step is we're going to get started making the crust for the turkey and making the flavor for inside that we're going to use to inject the turkey. We're going to melt butter with a whole bunch of spices. And we're going to use, again, the flavored butter to inject the turkey, all the spices. We're going to separate the butter, the liquid, and the hard spices, and crust the top of the turkey with the hard stuff. So, again, I just kind of put whatever spices I have, kind of throw it in there. We're going to start with garlic. Want to make sure that the garlic doesn't burn. It's just going to render. It's just going to cook a little bit. I'm going to separate a little bit of oil in here. Anytime I get garlic, chopped garlic like this, I always add a whole bunch of extra oil to the garlic. I use that oil to cook with, and at the same time, it's keeping the garlic moist. And now when I'm cooking, I have flavored oil to cook with. But for this, I don't really want any of that oil in there. So I'm just going to separate the oil and the garlic, or as much as I can. That's good enough. Throw a bunch of garlic in there. I precisely measured that. Again, whatever's in my spice rack is kind of what I'm using. Kosher salt. Always cook kosher salt. Another thing I do is we always have a mixture of kosher salt and cracked black pepper. So anytime we're cooking, we're just getting from here. Instead of going to the cabinet, put salt and then putting pepper, we always pre-mix it. But for this, we're not pre-mixing anything. Just going to throw it in there. That probably looks pretty good. Rosemary. I'm not a huge fan of rosemary, but just going to throw it in there. What's next? Montreal chicken seasoning. You know, there's such a little bit. This has been in my cabinet a long time. Just want to get rid of it. So that's done with that one. Parsley. Sure, why not? Cayenne pepper. I just grabbed it. We're not looking for spice here. It's more just maybe for color. Next one, oregano, little thing of oregano. Let's just get rid of it. That's been in there for a while. I think I have another big thing of oregano here. Lawry seasoning salt. That's always good. What else is next? Chives. A little bit of chives in. Why not? It was there. Cilantro leaves. Definitely not cilantro. What is this? Blackened seasoning. You know what? It's not even open. I'm not going to put it in there. Garlic spread. This is garlic mixed with salt. Throw some of that in there. Cracked black pepper, of course. Actually, this is coarse ground pepper. Garlic powder, why not? You can never have too much garlic of anything. What is this? Basil leaves. Just whatever's, that's good. Got rid of that. Basil, or bay leaves rather. We're gonna save the bay leaves for the stock later. Parsley, I already used the other parsley, so I was able to get rid of that bottle. What's this? Italian seasoning. You can never go wrong with Italian seasoning. Smoked paprika, always a must. Paprika is good for obviously for the color. I just love smoked paprika. Now I give it that nice brown coating too, or charred coating rather. Herbs, sure. Herbs are good. killer seasoning. Man, I don't even know what. I went camping one time and they were selling this stuff. I never even use it. I'm just gonna throw it in there. Cloves, definitely not. I'm not sure why that was in there. Bubba's barbecue rub for beef. Sure, why not? Get rid of that, that's garbage now. 4 pounds of butter. Kind of did this backwards. Usually I want to throw the butter in first and then throw all the seasoning on top so the butter's melting. But I got a little ahead of myself. But it'll be fine. I'm gonna use 4 pounds of butter. You can never have too much butter. So again, we're gonna inject the turkey with the butter, and we're also going to baste the turkey with the butter. So while the turkey's cooking in the oven, we're gonna spoon it with some of this as it's cooking, probably every 20 minutes or so. I'm not even sure how much butter I put in there yet, but we're just gonna keep going. And let's go one more package. Can you grab me a big plastic wrap? All right, we're gonna throw this on the stove. Low temperature. We're gonna let that cook, let it melt down. Kinda wanna try to get this seasoning on top since I did it a little backwards. Get the butter down, get it melted. Yep. Okay, so now we're gonna separate the butter from the spices using a strainer. So beginning part's easy. Just pour it in there. And we get to the spices, gets a little thicker. As it gets thicker, we're just kind of try to help it a little bit at the bottom. All that goodness there. Again, we're gonna use the liquid, the butter, to inject the turkey. And we're gonna use the spices as a kind of like a paste rub for the top of the turkey. A little bit left.
It's really good.
Okay. And try to keep the pieces out of the butter because it gets stuck in the syringe. And that's fine. It doesn't all have to come out. It's good that it's a little liquid. It's easier to work with when you're trying to put it on top of the turkey. And that's it. We're gonna wait for the butter to cool down a little bit before we put in the syringe ejected turkey. It's too hot to work with right now. So we're gonna give it a couple of minutes, let it cool down. Let's take a look at the stock so far, or the vegetables and the turkey. So right now we're about, Alexa, how much time is left? So it's only been in there for a half hour. I'm guessing probably another hour or so, but we'll keep checking on it. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour the butter in here, because with the syringe, I don't have enough of an angle to get to extract the liquid in. So here we go, I'm gonna pour it in here. It'll be easier for me to use the syringe. Butter extraction. So we're gonna try to find a meaty part of the turkey. And as I'm injecting the turkey, you should see it kind of blow up a little bit. Just do a couple parts at a time. You know, I can see some of it leaking out. We don't want it leaking out, so maybe I'll back off a little bit or find another spot. Try to get the big spots. And as you pull a needle out, just kind of press on it, let the coldness of the turkey kind of solidify the butter so it doesn't come out. Okay. Grab a little bit more. Trying to get in here. Not deep enough. Okay, there it goes. All right. That one's done. Set it in the pan. Get the other breast. Get some more butter. Start with the big side. Get in the middle. So you can see it starting to bubble up. It's starting getting bigger from the butter. Going in. Let the coldness solidify the butter. So you gotta be careful when you cook the turkey, and when you look at it, sometimes it's a little red inside from the liquid. So it might almost look like it's not done. So you just gotta be careful. Let's get some more liquid. Let's find a good spot. No. All right, that's enough there. Not a whole ton of meat in these. When I get into the joint, you can kind of feel the joint, you can feel the bone. Kind of see it, add it going in there. That's enough in there. And this is obviously all dark meat. Oh, need some more butter. Just a couple of spots in here. That's good. I'm not going to inject the wings. There's really no point. Get some more. See it bubbling up, just from the butter being added. That's enough there. That's plenty. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take all the spices and we're gonna rub the turkey with it. First thing I'm gonna do is kind of get butter on it, and you're gonna see the butter just solidify in the coldness. Kind of squirt it on there. Rub it in there really good. And now we're gonna add the seasoning. That's when I get my my producer, Adriana. I'm gonna start adding that, all the goodness.
How much? It's warm.
Remember to get both sides. Obviously the top is more important, but you want to get both sides. Okay, that's good. Let's flip it over. That's perfect. All right, let's flip it back over. Let's start on the bottom first, okay? Okay, so it's been about an hour and a half and the vegetables have been roasting with the turkey in it. And this looks like it's ready. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull it out. See how nice and roasted that is? That's what we're looking for. I'm gonna put it out, put it on the stove. I'm gonna get that cooking. And we almost blew up. That was a neat trick. I want to cook those. I want to cook those down. I'm gonna mix. We don't want anything to burn, but just want to get those juices cooked down just a little bit. I had an extra turkey in the refrigerator that I found, so I just threw it in there. What I did was I bought just turkey breast, so I added that afterwards. But we got good color in here. That tomato paste helps the color. So we're going to reduce the liquid just a bit. Now, while that's reducing, I'm going to crack open a bottle of wine. We're going to add some red wine to it. What kind of red wine do I have? 2014. It was a good year. Does anybody know what that means when it said it was a good year? Basically, the weather was good that year. The grapes grew really well, which obviously the better the grapes grow, the better the weather is, the better the product will be when you're making wine. I made chicken marsala the other day. So I had some leftover chicken marsala. I'm just gonna throw that in there. And throw some red wine in there. I'm gonna let that simmer for maybe about 10 minutes. Once it simmers for 10 minutes, we're gonna add water. So we wanna get all the flavor, all that it's on the pot, that's all flavor. It's called fond, F-O-N-D. It's really where you get the flavor from too. I know it kind of looks burnt, but it's all flavor. Okay, cut. All right, so this is reduced a bit. What we're gonna do is just add some water and try to get this kind of filled up. That's good for now. We're gonna throw some bay leaves in. We're gonna let this simmer overnight. So I'm going to cook it. I'll cook it all the rest of the day. Before I go to bed, I will top it off again with water, and I'll just turn it down low and let it simmer through the night. Let it really, really extract all the flavors from the turkey and from the vegetables, from the tomato paste, from the wine, from everything. And then tomorrow what we'll do is we'll strain it and then again reduce the liquid. And when I say reduce, we're gonna intensify the liquid by letting just the water of the liquid steam out, extracting just the flavors to basically intensify the flavor of the liquid. So until tomorrow, we'll let this simmer until the morning. So day 2, the stock, as you can see, has cooked overnight. It's kind of what we're looking for. Everything just falling off the bone. So what we're going to do now is just strain all this stuff out, and we want just the liquid. And we're going to use the liquid, put it in a pot, and then cook the liquid down only. So before I went to bed last night, I filled this up, put it on a slow cook, and now we're just going to grab all this stuff out and strain it. Okay, so now it's simmering. What we need to do is skim that stuff that's on top. This is no good. So we're going to skim all this stuff out. I'm going to keep doing that for a couple of hours. All around the edges. Make a little whirlpool. It goes to the edges, and we scoop the edges. So we're on day 2 now. If you look over here into the stock, this is where it started at right here, and we cooked it all the way down to there. That just intensifies the flavor. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make what's called a roux, flour and butter. So equal parts of butter to equal parts of flour. So we're going to start with a half a pound of butter, and then a half a pound of flour. So first we're going to let the butter melt, and then we're going to add the flour. We're going to look for a consistency of wet sand. So now that we have all the butter melted, we're going to add the flour. And it's equal parts flour, equal parts butter, half a pound of flour, half a pound of butter. Measure the flour precisely. So again, we're just going to want to look for a consistency of wet sand. we're going to add this to the stock and to the gravy to make it thick. Now, anytime you're adding a roux to any kind of liquid, you have to make sure that the liquid is boiling. Or else what will happen is you'll make roux balls. We don't want roux balls. It's little tiny balls in the sauce. Add a little bit of this as it's being added. Add a little bit at a time. You can always add more. I'm going to mix it. Turn it down just a little bit. We don't want a rapid boil. And dip the spoon in there. See how thick it is. Almost there. We're going to add a little bit more roux. And that should do it. Whisk it in there real good. Let's check the thickness. Let's turn it down just a bit. Now this is going to thicken up as it sits for a while as well. That's the thickness we're looking for. I'm going to turn it down just a bit so it's simmering. I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. We're going to taste it. Tasting spoon. That's pretty good. That's really good. All right, so this is done. We're going to add one more ingredient, stick of butter. Give it that richness. At the end, I'm going to turn it off and just let the butter melt. That's awesome. You want to try some, Adri?
No.
No gravy for you. Okay, all right, that's it. That's the finished product.